So there's something that I've obviously been very passionate about over the years as a coach. In fact, I was coaching a coach this morning about key skills because she has just successfully sold her real estate business and now is moving into a full-time career in coaching. And so she was asking me some really good questions. And one of them was, what is one of the primary skills that you have to have as a coach? And my answer to that was very simple, which is problem identification. Understanding how to identify real problems and then put solutions to those problems, in my opinion, is probably the #1 skill of being a coach. And yet the issue is that I think it's twofold. One, we have a bias towards action. So we do not spend enough time in problem identification. And we spend way too much time in action. We don't really, if you think about it like as a tree, we spend too much time hacking at the leaves rather than getting to the root of things. And you all have heard a variation, my favorite quote on this, that Albert Einstein said if he had an hour to fix a problem, he'd spend 55 minutes on the problem and 5 minutes on the solution. The majority of you, and I know this because I coach you, it would be the inverse. You would spend 5 minutes on the problem and 55 minutes drawing up the 150th GPS that you've created this year to solve the problem that isn't. And so I said that there was one issue. That's one side of it. And I'm not here to pick on you today. Today's going to be a fun exercise that I've created, but I've not tested it on anybody. So you're in for a real treat. The other side of it, the other problem that I see with problem identification is that sometimes I think we all get kind of stuck looking at the same things, meaning we're always pulling from within the same industry and the same ecosystem. And so like we go to family reunion, we go to mega camp masterminds in Nashville this month, and we're all looking at the problem as if we're realtors. And so we all kind of get the same answers. And so what today is all about is what I'm calling creative problem solving. And I would love some feedback after this is over on #1, if you like this exercise. And 2, what I'm really interested in is how would you make this better? How would you take this and make it even better than it is? Okay, so let me just share my screen with you here so that we can get going, and I'll show you what the exercise is. But my first question is, when you look at these 3 brands, the first one is Netflix, the second one is McDonald's, and the last one is Lululemon. What do each of these brands represent to you? Now, I want you to look at it through a business lens. Like some of you may look at McDonald's and go, oh, that's gross, right? That's all I think about is when I look at McDonald's, I think gross. But I want you to think about it through a business lens, okay? So what do each of these brands represent to you? And what I want each one of you to do is, starting with Netflix, just write down, 1 to 2 phrases, or maybe 2 to 3 phrases of what Netflix represents to you. And then look at McDonald's and do the same thing. And then look at Lululemon and do the same thing. So we're just going to take a second, each of you do that. Now, my goal here is to kind of like prime your creativity. I want you to think outside of being a real estate agent, okay? So once you've got your 2 to 3 things of what these brands represent to you, my next question is if you were going to form a company using what each of these brands represents to you, what would the company do? And you may not be able to answer this all right now, right? This might be something that for those of you going into breakout rooms and all of that, that you guys, further this discussion. But if you were going to form a company using what each of these brands represents to you, what would the company do? So I put myself through this exercise first. And if we go back up, Netflix, when I think of Netflix, I think of streaming and on demand, right? It's always available. When I think of McDonald's, I think of consistency. Right? Because it doesn't really matter if I visit a McDonald's in Lawrence, Kansas, or I go up and see Meg in Chicago, the McDonald's experience is pretty consistent. And then when I think of Lululemon, I think of high quality, like high quality products, you know, because I own a few of their like pants and sweats, and I really like them. They're very high quality. So when I think of each of those three brands, those are kind of the words that or phrases that are represented to me. So I was just sitting there thinking to myself on this question: if I were taking those three representations and I was going to form a company around that, what would it be? Well, the other piece that I didn't say about McDonald's, the other thing that I think about with them is hamburgers or cheeseburgers, right? And so I started thinking, well, how cool would it be if we created a company and every month you had delivered to your door a burger of the month? And the burger of the month, so it shows up on demand, right? Just like Netflix, it just shows up at your door, and it's very consistent, and it's the highest quality ingredients. So we go out and find the best beef, we find the most organic vegetables, we go up and visit Laura Rabus in Wisconsin and we get the very best cheese, right? And so I started thinking, using those three companies and what they represent to me, I would create a subscription-based model that delivers a burger of the month very consistently with the highest quality of ingredients. So that's how I answered it, right? So I just wanted to give you an example of that. And so again, it's not that I'm going to quit coaching and go, start delivering burgers, even though that sounds really fun and cool. It is something though that you all could do to your database, right? Maybe once a year you do a burger of the year and you have all the ingredients delivered. I think that would be kind of cool. But then the next question, so now that I've got you kind of creatively thinking, then I want to take this and form it inward. So here's the next question is, what is an area of your life or business that you are currently winning in? So an area of your life or business that you're currently winning in. So think of that like when I think about mine, it might be my family, right? And so I work really hard at working privately with Rochelle and my two daughters, Leah and Zoe. And so when the next question is when I look at these three brands and what they represent, how could I use those words to make myself even better in the area I chose above? So when I think about being on demand, being available, being consistent, and being high quality, I started thinking about, well, how do I get even better at being a husband or being a dad, using what those three brands represent? And the thing that kind of hit me was, the only complaint I ever get from my kids outside of just being having to discipline them is they catch me on my phone every now and then. And they say, Dad, why are you on your phone? So then I started thinking, well, what if I just left my phone in the car every night? And there's nothing that's that important from 4:30 to 8:30 when they go to bed, I can go get it. But what's the one thing that I could do to be more available, to be more consistent, and to be a better quality father? And so that was the one thing that I came up with. So I hope that you're starting to see this, and I hope that you're starting to see how it can apply, not just in your business, but also in your life. And again, the whole idea is just to get us creatively thinking in that kind of that state of flow. And then last question, what is an area of your life or business that you feel stuck in, or that you aren't making the progress that you want? So for some of you, this might be listings signed. It's not for the Allen Edge group up there in South Dakota, who in the first quarter hit 31 listings signed, which is a 41% increase over what they did in the first quarter of 2021 and outperformed their market by 63%, right, Tara? If you're with us, I hope you're hearing that loud and clear. But how can you use what these brands represent to you to get unstuck or to start making significant progress? So to me, this goes right to the MOFers of like what Gary's been saying. So when you think about on demand, available, what is the message or the offer that we need to have on demand that we need to consistently deliver, but do it in a really high class, really like high quality way? And so that's kind of what I've put together here, and I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's kind of cool and it's different. It's different than what we typically do, which is go to the MREA, go to Shift. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't continue to consult those things, but take three brands that really are important to you. Maybe it's Apple. Like when I think of Apple, I think of simplicity, right? That's what they're it's simplicity, it's elegant. Maybe it is Starbucks. When I think of Starbucks, I think of a company that takes care of its employees. I also think of a product that is not just consistent, but it has consistent quality, right? Because McDonald's is consistent, but the quality sucks. So whatever issues you may be having, or if you're just looking at how do I kind of spark the creativity within myself or my team, I would invite you all to use this as a model, an exercise that you use either in thinking time privately by yourself, or you use as a group, or maybe you have everybody go think on it using the same three and then bring it back and lead a group discussion from there. But my intention here was for you to start looking at your business, your life, your company, and where you're winning and what your obstacles are in a different way, in a creative way through the brands that you're interacting with every day.